G'day and welcome to another edition of the Aussie Ideas Man. I should have done this more than a week ago. I did start, but life got in the way and I have procrastinated and not put it together. Oh well, it's not that important. Only my dedicated followers watch my videos anyway, and all the silly Aptera disciples stick their heads in the sand like ostriches and refuse to listen to logic and reason. It's their loss. So my topic for today, I'm still trying to learn ways to be better at being a YouTube presenter or influencer, as they call them. I don't know what. But anyway, mostly an entertainer. My topic is to have a little dig at Steve Fambro. I've done videos about Chris Anthony, who, I'm pretty blunt, I say people lie. I believe billions of people in the world lie, so I don't think there's anything wrong with identifying ones that you think are lying and give you valid reasons. And I've done that for Chris Anthony. I've done it for a few others, like the cretin at Aptera Owners Club. I point out reasons why I believe they're lying, and I can't see anything wrong with that. If there's something wrong with that, there's something wrong with the world. And that thing is that political correctness has gone mad, well and truly mad. So, the topic of this, just for entertainment purposes, is to present why I think Steve Fambro is a bit of a liar. And I've taken the USCG webinar as my first example. I've removed most of what Chris Anthony has said. Whenever he moves his lips, he's lying, as the song goes. And I've just got what Steve Fambro has said to make comments on. So here we go.
Good morning. I'm Steve Fambro. I'm a co-founder, co-CEO of Aptera, along with Chris. My professional training is as an electrical engineer, but this is probably my third startup. Before Aptera, believe it or not, I worked as a farmer for about 8 years.
Okay, so the first thing is, I think he's a bit misleading there because he didn't start with the fact that he started up Aptera in 2006. I guess he just doesn't want people to know that, which is weird because most people know it if they know anything about Aptera.
Developing a vertical farming technology that ended up taking me to the Middle East, where I worked for an ag tech investment fund. Reunited with Chris, and I moved back to the United States in 2019, and that's when we started Aptera.
No, 29 wasn't when they started Aptera. 2006 is when they started Aptera. 2019, is when they restarted Aptera. So he's not being truthful. He's deceiving people already. And that's just when he's introducing himself.
Aptera has a single mission, and it's to make every journey powered by the sun.
It's not a single mission because making every journey powered by the sun would not include a charger. They would make every journey powered by the sun if there was no way to charge it. What he's doing is making some journeys powered by the sun, and most journeys will be powered by plugging into either a public charger or one you've had installed in your house.
But our vision of the future for automobiles is the next one will get 60 miles, 100 miles, 200 miles, 300 miles. Eventually, our goal is to make every journey powered by the sun. So that dictates basically everything we do as a company, how the vehicles are designed, the materials they use, how our own internal processes work. This relentless focus on efficiency is all grounded on making every journey powered by the sun.
Not true. These are just hollow claims, and they are lies in and of themselves. If their relentless focus was on this sort of efficiency, they would have still included a heat pump. They made the lie that heat pumps weren't available because of lack of valves back in, I think, around 2021, 3 years ago. Since then, there have been heat pumps in millions of cars, millions of air conditioners, millions of hot water systems for homes, millions of many, many items where heat pumps are used. And that's just one example of them not wanting to be the most efficient vehicle.
And of course, everybody knows with electric vehicles, the most expensive part is the batteries. So how do you make a vehicle with less batteries to go the same distance or greater? You increase its efficiency. And primarily that's lowering the drag, which means you have this nice aerodynamic shape like Aptera has, and you use lightweight materials like our carbon SMC composite. So if you want to make electric vehicles proliferate by making them more affordable, by making smaller battery packs, you have to be grounded in efficiency. And so that's how we do it.
They're making an autocycle, not a car. He references smaller battery packs to cars. What he should be referencing is smaller battery packs to other autocycles, which are mostly motorcycles. If you make a comparison to the battery packs on offer, 25, 40, 60, and 100 kilowatt hours. You compare any of those that they offer to the battery packs in two-seater motorcycles and autocycles, and you will see that they are considerably larger. So again, on battery pack size, he's lying.
So solar power is what makes Aptera different. There are lots of EVs in the space. Aptera is the only solar electric EV. And it's not an afterthought. It's not a decorative panel that goes on the roof, or it's not something that's a gimmick. It is the fundamental part of our IP portfolio. It's a very rich IP portfolio. Most of that goes to protecting how we make panels in 3 dimensions, curved, and make them automotive grade, lightweight, affordable, et cetera, but also the high voltage electronics required to integrate it with the battery pack. Having the charging on the vehicle basically means that most people will never have to plug it in. They can simply park it on the curb or in their parking lot, and most of the daily driving miles will be covered by the sun. So that's a big advantage to the product.
The addition of solar is an afterthought. They went from 2006 to 2011 without any solar on what they were saying was making the most efficient vehicle in the world. It's a 2019 afterthought, or 13 years after they thought about the Aptera. As far as their intellectual property portfolio goes, they are in deep hot water with Aptera, who claim to own the intellectual property. And they have known about Aptera claiming they own the IP 2 years before they had this webinar, yet he is quiet about it. Being dishonest is done by not including what you know that is contrary to what you say.
The lowest investment was $10,000 just to get a chance at those slots. So
yeah, and they're not buying down the price of the car; they're buying their position in the delivery order.
Some of our amazing milestones, our patent portfolio.
Yeah, we started in the very beginning. We took a cue from my time in biotech at Illumina, and we hired full-time patent counsel. So we had patent counsel embedded, actually sitting with engineers with a very specific goal of not only building up the patent portfolio, but creating the necessary blocking to prevent others from coming in and copying what we're doing. So we're very proud of that. We've been working on this nonstop for over 3 years. Damien is still, working for us and engaged with the engineers. So we think Aptera as an IP creation company is something that's just fundamental to what we've been doing. And we're even working with different potential customers.
This is mind-boggling because, as I've already said, he knows 2 years prior to this webinar that Aptera owned the intellectual property for the vehicle, and yet he's going on about how good they are at having an IP portfolio. It looks more like their intellectual property cheats themselves.
And supplier relations with amazing connections around the world.
And that team really was essential, helping us compete and win the California Energy Commission grant, the $21 million grant. Same team is also helping us with some of the efforts around the world.
But other great partners as well.
Yeah, 2 interesting things about these partners. They really helped us co-design and build some of the IP together. So, for example, CPC Group, we have the largest carbon fiber SMC mass-produced tub, the bottom structure of the vehicle, ever made in the history of the world. Also with Hirschler, we will have the largest solar panel ever made on a vehicle of any kind, and one of the largest single solar panels ever made. It's not the largest, but it's just about the largest solar panel ever made. So these vendors are helping us really push the envelope with technology to help us achieve these remarkable numbers that you see.
Now, these are some things that easily fool the gullible. Saying you have the largest CPC tub, you got the largest this and that, the largest or amongst the largest solar panels in the world. All of these largest things are just to impress. Having the largest of anything means nothing. It's absolutely useless. And in fact, when you want to make small and efficient, having the largest is contrary to your goal to be small and efficient. It's all meaningless, but gullible fools are easily impressed by things that don't matter at all, and this is what Steve does. I think he's learnt a lot from Chris over the years.
And although we're not getting too deep in IP, one of our big portions of the IP portfolio is a technology that we developed and are deploying on Aptera that reduces the number of connectors on the vehicle by a factor of 2 or 3. So lower cost, lower weight, fewer failure points. So one of the key differentiators between Aptera and any other, regular car company, it starts at the very beginning of the body. A typical car, whether it's a Tesla or BYD or whatever, they're going to have almost 200 parts in the vehicle structure. Each one of those parts have to be inventoried. They have to be checked for tolerance. They have separate tools. They have to be moved through the process. Aptera has fewer than 10 structural parts, only 6 key structural parts. So that means far fewer tools, which means we're able to recover that capital cost for amortization much more quickly than if we tooled a typical automotive body in white. But it also means a greater chance, or fewer chances rather, of problems with the build of the vehicle, with misalignment, with parts not fitting, et cetera, because every single part is tooled on both sides and they are designed to key in together. So fewer parts that are far dimensionally more stable than the stamped steel parts, and fewer things to inventory, fewer tools. It just means it's a radically different process with lower CapEx and a much faster capital recovery time.
Once again, these are things that don't matter to a purchaser. When I buy a car or a motorbike, I have never been concerned with how many parts it's been made out of. And I've never desired to have one car or motorbike because it has fewer parts than my other choices. It's just irrelevant. I don't care what number of parts there are in the thing I buy. And as for whether they have more propensity to fail, it matters not, because I get warranties on new products, which at the moment Aptera has no warranty whatsoever. But I get warranties on products, and so I don't care if there's a high propensity to fail due to too many parts in the product, because that's on them if it does. I get it fixed free on warranty. So he's selling things that don't matter. And this is a regular practice in the marketing field, where they say, don't sell the sausage, sell the sizzle. They're selling sizzle, and gullible fools are lapping it up. Take a good look at the sausage. It's not even there.
Let's just say one of the most common questions people ask is like, well, why don't they put solar cells on other vehicles? The answer is it wouldn't really do anything. It would be almost like a gimmick because those vehicles use so much energy. You could cover them in solar cells and it wouldn't really add anything appreciable to the range of the vehicle. But because Aptera is so efficient, we add meaningful range to the vehicle.
It means a lower cost to own. It means for us on the manufacturing side, a lower cost to build. And obviously we've designed it to be super safe.
Yeah, Aptera, it's because we chose 3 wheels to make it more efficient. The government calls it a motorcycle. But so you think, well, what safety things you have to do for a motorcycle? Not much, really. So we go well above that. We actually look to the automotive standards, the FMVSS, which is why our vehicle has airbags, which is why it's being crash tested. So it has all the typical modern safety features you would expect of a car, even though it's a motorcycle.
It doesn't have all the typical modern features of a car because they neglect to put side airbags in. And everybody that buys a car these days expects side airbags in them. He'll talk fast enough to be able to make claims that people will just go, oh yeah, they do. They don't. Even having 2 rear wheels is a safety feature that they're not including. They've brought it down to 1.
It's not something that we use as an excuse. Rather, we use it as an opportunity to make a motorcycle the safest it could ever be. And the 60 million unlocks the other things.
And then producing as many vehicles as we can, as quickly as we can.
Yeah, on that shift, it's important to know Monroe and Associates, esteemed company in the automotive world, they designed, with our engineers, they designed our factory for us so it could be copied and pasted anywhere in the world. In less than 100,000 square feet, we can make about 10,000 vehicles per year per shift. So with this model that they have, which has very little capital improvement to the building, we can move into virtually any leased building around the world that's roughly 8,000 square meters or 100,000 square feet and produce 20,000 cars a year with 2 shifts.
Once again, he's making these claims based on calculations. They have never made the vehicles in those numbers at Carlsbad to prove they can do it. They just calculate they can do it, and they are always miles off with their calculations. He's selling snake oil, saying they can do this when they haven't done it and they can't calculate within a bull's roar of what reality would give us.
Yes, so we've been, to the magic of software, we've been crash testing for the past year virtually with software simulation. So that's how we were able to finalize the frame design, the thickness of the different materials, et cetera, by doing that crash simulation. So we have to, of course, follow it up with real vehicles in order to calibrate the airbags and make sure all of that works as designed. But when we do that later next year, we'll be sharing that information.
On the frame design, finalizing it, they did that. They finalized the frame design and then threw a motor in the body, took them out of the wheels. And so all of that frame design finalization was for naught. He doesn't tell you that. He knows it, but he doesn't tell them that in the webinar. With the motor right in front of the frame instead of away from the frame, all the dynamics of that frame change, and it has to be redesigned.
So two answers. We haven't done long-term winter testing yet. We have driven in the snow when we were in St. Moritz, Switzerland. We drove it on a frozen lake and drove around the snow, but that's not a winter development plan. But our engineers are aware, many of them from Michigan, how ice and snow build up inside fender wells and things like that. So it's something they're aware of. We just haven't done that testing yet. And you will have the option in those conditions, I believe, of removing the wheel pants. So for the few months a year where that's an issue, it might be appropriate just to remove the wheel pants.
What is the insurance companies? Will they write a policy for Aptera?
Yeah, we haven't announced anything with any particular insurance companies yet. We are a registered manufacturer, so our VIN numbers show up in their system. But there's a couple of conversations that have been had with some leading insurance companies, but we haven't finalized anything yet. But we haven't seen any red flags. We don't believe it's going to be a problem at all.
So the answer there is no. Snake oil salesmen can't just say no. They have to make it sound like they're doing something. They're trying, but they've achieved nothing.
And help you with your service need, and you can be on the way.
Yeah, that's an important point. The primary profit mode of dealerships is in service. And with a gasoline or internal combustion engine car, you need that, right? There's always oils and filters and things to change and tune up. We don't have that with electric vehicles. You have even less of it with Aptera. So there's no profit model in the world for Aptera of having a traditional dealership model that makes sense. So we've been talking, we're working with people, some that's coming in perhaps to help us with business development, having conversations with well-known companies that do mobile service already. And it may be as simple as, papering out that relationship and have it deployed as the official Aptera service model.
Now, he said that EVs require less servicing than ICE vehicles, but then he says that Aptera requires less servicing than other EVs. I believe that's a lie. I would think that putting a solar system on Aptera would add to the service requirements that other EVs just don't have. That alone, which is massive, means that they're not easier to service.
The sooner we have that equipment, the sooner we can start producing vehicles.
Yes, so the answer is going to be 2025.
Yeah.
And we've already commissioned the first ultra low volume set of production, the first 50 vehicles. Those are already paid for. Those vehicles are being built later this year and into Q1 next year. But so we're already starting that process.
He keeps announcing dates with confidence, yet history shows that they have missed dates with regularity. It's just more lying.
Yeah.
Quite a bit.
So first of all, it's going to be the world's safest motorcycle, right? It doesn't have to have any of that stuff, but we have massive door side impact beams that are part of the structure. The vehicle has been modeled with all of those metal and composite components together, and of course the front airbags. As opposed to like air curtains or side airbags or things like that, that's not in the launch plan. But there are people who also want to choose, let's say, the fastest vehicle that's possible, like a Ferrari or something. So maybe go a Ferrari, or maybe they want to buy something that's the biggest or the safest. There's all kinds of choices out there for people. But for customers who are focused on efficiency and powering the journey by the sun and with a great amount of safety, I think our vehicle is going to be a good choice.
So here he contradicts what he was first saying about them wanting to make the most efficient vehicle ever. Now he's saying we don't do things because certain people don't want them. He's being directed or dictated by the wants of what people have. You can't do both. You either make what you regard to be the most efficient vehicle ever, or you just make vehicles to cater to what the needs and requests of people are.
Yes. It's something that we've talked about internally. We've talked with some local schools even, or people that do vocational training, and it's definitely on our horizon.
Steve moves in two circles. One is claiming things that have only been modelled in a computer that have never been proven in real life, and the other is claiming that they're going to talk about it or they're looking to do that in the future, but it's not happening in reality. Just doing those two things doesn't matter whether he lies or not. He can be 100% truthful and he's still worthless.
And that would be for outside of warranty. Like our intention is everything that's covered under warranty. We're going to take care of that. Customers aren't going to do anything other than place a call.
That's to that.
That's actually, it's a really good point. The same thing that makes it low drag in a headwind, if you will, also makes it low drag in a crosswind. So the vehicle just doesn't see the wind the same way a typical vehicle would. So the answer is it's very stable in crosswind.
And we've tried to flip it and haven't been successful flipping one yet. So
that's not likely. The frontal area is way less than the side area. So just simple logic says crosswinds will have a greater effect by the additional area that it's hitting. It is designed to be very aerodynamic frontal on, but that design does not make it as aerodynamic side on. Steve knows his audience is foolish, is gullible. They know their audience well.
The engineers, when you calculate the margin of stability of the vehicle, like how stable is it, what's the propensity of any vehicle to flip over, the engineers tell us that our numbers are about the same as a Volkswagen Golf.
And once again, always referring to things that have already impressed people, but what he's saying is their engineers have just made some calculations. Don't trust the calculations. Don't trust he's telling the truth. He's a liar.
Which is a very popular, very fun vehicle, very stable. So it's as stable as a Golf.
Beautiful. But this one made me giggle a little bit. Should I wear a helmet with Aptera?
Well, you're at the racetrack.
Automotive.
Yeah, and the helmet that you're sitting in, exceeds the FMVSS for roof crush of a typical passenger vehicle. So the thing on top of your head is actually stronger than a typical passenger car. Yeah, the government, the FMVSS regulations on roof crush strength actually creeps up every year. So when we, as where we are right now, we just barely exceed the requirement, which is fantastic.
This is strange to me because they have still been talking about being 7 times stronger than the average car when it comes to roof crush resistance. 7 times stronger. Yet with a couple of years of the requirements creeping up, they barely exceed the requirements now. How is that? When you delve into things they say, quite often you'll find they don't make sense. And this is just one more case in my book.
There's a lot of larger trucks and SUVs and things like that can't even meet it, or they struggle to meet it. But with Aptera, because of its design, because of materials that we use, we're able to exceed that safety requirement.
Small cars that don't pass the moose test too.
It was maybe created by Volvo because all the moose running around Sweden on the road.
All the Swedish moose causing trouble. But yes, we passed the moose test with our vehicle, and great stability factor for our vehicle.
I left Chris's lie in here because they have never passed the moose test. They've never actually done the moose test. What they did was fake one themselves, but they have never done an official moose test. Now, the reason why I left Chris in here is because Steve is sitting right next to him, and he should have said, no, we have not passed the moose test. Sometimes you can lie just by allowing the liar next to you to get away with it, and this is what Steve does. In fact, he has used Chris Anthony as a liar for him most of the time. This is an example of it. He should have stood up and said to Chris Anthony, don't claim we've passed a moose test when we haven't even done one. And to not do that, you become complicit in the lie.